There's a lot of opinions on what a homestead is, and to some it's as simple as making bread on Sundays, or having backyard chickens for eggs, or maybe even growing and storing as much food as you possibly can. No matter where your idea of a homestead fits on the spectrum, they all have one thing in common: an appreciation for the way life used to be. You know, as we reach the end of 2023 and start a new year, I have a pretty good understanding of what is typical in our society. Part of the reason we got into homesteading was to break from the mold and connect with a way of life that was lost in the chaos. I made this video to show those of you who are interested in homesteading what a typical week can look like, and if you aren't looking to uproot your life and start a homestead, well, that's okay too. I hope you enjoy the video. Our chickens aren't laying very much this time of year. It's getting dark pretty early. It's one of those things you just deal with on your homestead. A lot of this flock you see here is actually hatched out by one of our chickens. The leghorn right there, she hatched out a ton of eggs for us because we were losing chickens left and right. We were free ranging our chickens originally, and they were going out into the forest laying their eggs, and I think our neighbor's dog was catching them while they were sitting on some eggs. So we decided to build a coop in the barn there, and we put up some poultry netting for them so that way they could be a little bit more protected. We've even got a automatic door in the corner for them to go in and out of at night. It is a cold day today. Right now it is 26 degrees with a high of 32 for the day. But you can see these pigs have done a pretty darn good job of clearing up these pastures. They're at about a week and a half where they're at right now. And I've already come through and set up some of these posts. But today we are gonna move them over. We need to move their waterers over. We need to move their A-frame structures over, so let's not waste any time and let's get to it. I've got two different reels here. One connects to this side of the pen, the other connects to the new pen. So as I open up this one, I'm closing the other one behind them. Come here, pigs. Hey, pigs. This is a bit of a training process for some of our pigs. Even though the wire's gone, there's this little line here that they can see that there's new growth and mud, and they think that that new growth side is electric fence. Let's go get some corn. Come here, pig. Come here, pig. There you go, Bezzy. Hey, she did pretty good. Now we'll close the fence behind them so that way they don't try and go back to the other side. Hey, Bezzy. Come here, Bezzy. Oh, come on, Bezzy. You were over there. All right. I get a little frustrated with Bezzy over here. She's just such a finicky pig. She's so skittish and so scared. Bezzy hasn't been on our property for very long. We don't have a ton of experience with her. I can tell she's definitely not used to having other pigs around because you can see Delilah just dominates her like crazy. I think it's just gonna take some time for her to get used to how we do things, get used to moving around, being around Delilah and the other pigs. All right, this is the tricky part. It's a little bit harder with these smaller piglets because we have two wires to keep them in right now. We got Bacon, which is bigger, and then these other guys, which are smaller. Hopefully we don't have any breakouts into this other pen here. There you go. This is working out pretty good. I'll leave a link to a video when we moved them to these paddocks, the first ones, how big of a disaster that was. Yeah, Bacon and the feeder piglets did pretty darn good. Come here, pig. Man, don't you just love when things go as planned? That was a nice move. And to think these guys are gonna get even better at this. Before I jinx myself, I should probably get this energizer going. The fence is off right now. Don't tell them that. Let's go test it, make sure it's hitting pretty hard. The fence tester is showing that it's hot, and hopefully you can see in the camera just how much damage these guys have done. Good damage on this side where they were before for about a week and a half compared to the side we just moved them to. I have to say though that Samson, Delilah, and Bezzy cleared the most amount of grass. They tilled it up the best out of any group. I mean, there's not a single thing living in this ground. I'm sure the worms are loving it. Soil's getting aerated like crazy. It's getting fertilized from their poop. And you can just see a very distinct line between where they are and where they were. I love Idaho pasture pigs because they'll eat the grass and graze when you want them to, but if you want them to till it up like normal traditional pigs, they'll do that as well. When we're doing our waterers, we put them on blocks so that way we can raise it up. Otherwise the nipple's right on the ground, they won't be able to get to it. And because these pigs are pretty strong, if this thing's full of water, they will tip this over. So we use T-posts, we put those on either side, and then we put a strap around it to keep it secure. Just a normal ratchet strap. So these are just 55-gallon barrels that had soy sauce. These ones had Ale 81, which is a soda to our local area, if you know what that is. We clean them out. We put a nipple right there at the bottom. When they bite down on it, water is released. Because we are on the back side of our property, we do not have access to running water. We do have a creek back there, so we could always pump it if we wanted to. But for now, this is working for us. We have another 55-gallon barrel that we put in the back of the Polaris. We have a hose right here that we siphon from this tank down into our other tanks. Siphoning's pretty darn easy. I only do this for water. Don't ever siphon gas. Don't steal people's gas. So we put one end up here and we shove that hose all the way to the bottom. I use my sleeve so I don't have to actually suck on the end of this hose, which is definitely not sanitary. And we basically just suck on it real quick and that should be enough force to start the siphon. And you'd be surprised how quickly this 55 gallons can actually siphon into this. And these pigs are eagerly waiting their water. They've had to wait an hour or so while I was setting all this up. Hey Mike, you want some belly rubs, buddy? You want some belly rubs? Pig paradise right here. There you go, Mike. Boars aren't mean. Boars love their cuddles, pets, and all that. I think they might even be nicer than the sows. Except, of course, when you get in between two boars that are battling it out, they will mess you up. Got all of the pig shelters in the new pasture. Penelope's enjoying her A-frame again, her house. I noticed that some of the pigs had been moving their A-frame structures around a little bit, and the last thing I want them to do is to push them into a fence. I bought some eye bolts. We're gonna bolt those to the A-frames, and then I'm gonna put a stake in the ground so that way they can't move them around. Hey, bacon. If you're like us, you eat a lot of meat, which means that we need to have ways to store it. The best way we have is our freezers. In this freezer right here, we have tons of chicken, our leftover turkeys that we did for Thanksgiving. And then in this small chest freezer, we have more chicken, we have some edamame, some carrots, some elderberry, miscellaneous things. We are gonna be butchering our steer early 2024 and also our pig. So that's gonna require a lot of storage space, which means that we need to go purchase another freezer. These are just things that you gotta buy to store tons of food like this. We really like these freezers. This is a freezer and a fridge made by Insignia. Not a big fan of the chest freezer because as you can see, although we have a window here, you can't put anything above it, whereas this kind of a freezer, we can store stuff up above. Today, I'm gonna go run and grab another freezer. This is a big freezer. It is 21 cubic feet of freezer space. Taller than I am. I'm about 6 foot, so like 76 inches tall. We have a lot of meat we're gonna need to store, especially after Oat goes to the butcher and then bacon gets butchered, which we are doing on the farm here. Let's get this thing inside. Now we've got two big, huge freezers. I mean, this thing is massive. It's gonna fit a lot of meat in there. Our beef, our pork, maybe some more chicken. We do make videos when we butcher, so if you want to see those, click this one for our turkey, and then you can click this one for the chicken. This right here is my kombucha. Isn't it pretty? Some people call this the SCOBY, some people call it Mom. Don't ask me why they do that, but they do. Every 7 to 10 days, I have to re-up my kombucha supply. I ferment this here at home. If you're wondering what kombucha is, it is basically fermented tea. There's a live bacteria in it, which is a SCOBY. I don't sound very scientific. All I know is that it works. So the reason why I drink kombucha is because I have had major stomach issues for most of my life, which is due to poor eating when I was young. But this stuff right here helps so much. I usually have major nausea or bloating in the morning, and it's just really a rough start to my mornings. And so ever since I started drinking kombucha, especially fermenting my own at home here, my stomach issues in the morning have pretty much gone away completely, and it works better than anything I've ever tried, better than probiotic pills or even Greek yogurt, which probably didn't work because it was pasteurized, but we'll have to try that when Rosie's milking. We need to brew up some new kombucha so that way we can keep our supply, so let's get to it. I start by bringing 8 cups of water to a boil. I add my black tea and green tea, my raw sugar, and steep for 5 minutes. Then I remove my tea bags, pop a lid on it, and set it aside to come to room temperature. Although you can drink kombucha tea by itself, I like to add some juice to mine. At this point, I pour juice into serving size bottles. And now it's time to add the fermented tea. I like to use a strainer to catch any snotty looking pieces. Screw the lids on tight, give them a shake, and they are off to ferment for another 3 days. Doesn't that just look appetizing? All that's left is to add our tea mixture into our SCOBY hotel so we can start our 7-day fermentation process over again. There's all the soybeans harvested, well, picked at least. This is the easy part, and I already know that. It's gonna be much harder taking all the beans out of each one of those pods. My prediction is that this isn't gonna be very sustainable. I think it's gonna be a lot of work to get that bean out. Harvesting is a decent amount of work. It's not terrible, it'll make you huff and puff, but the tedious thing is gonna be getting the pods out. Soybean probably isn't gonna be the easiest protein on a small scale like this. I think I'm gonna need to find another protein source to grow. I think the corn's gonna be really good. This small batch of soybeans that we grew and harvested this year was really just a test. I just wanted to see if growing soybeans is gonna be sustainable. Like I said earlier in the video, I think corn's gonna be very sustainable to do on a smaller scale. Another reason why I wanted to grow this soybean wasn't just for our pigs. I'm not much of a prepper by any means. I don't, necessarily think that the world's coming to an end, but God forbid we have like another Great Depression. I do like knowing that there are crops that are super easy to grow, like soybean. Plant it and forget about it kind of a plant. It's nice knowing that there's a crop that's as easy to grow as this that could pretty well sustain us for a decent period of time. Yeah, soybean meal isn't gonna be very practical for us to do on our own, on our farm for our pigs right now. If you own a homestead, you probably have some sort of equipment, whether that be a Polaris, maybe a tractor, a chainsaw, or even your own truck or car that you use to go get hay or feed or anything to do with the property. You're gonna have some maintenance to do, and we bought this Polaris recently. We've gotten past our break-in period, and so it's time for me to do an oil change on this thing. Let's get started. First thing we gotta do is drain this oil. Once I've got the oil drain plug off, I always open up the cap on top of the engine here, so that way everything can flow a little bit easier. Polaris didn't put this oil filter in the best position. It is way down in here. Usually I like to see these near the bottom of the engine, not on the front of it. This is what we use to take the oil filters off. Twists like that and it puts compression on the oil filter, so that way you can twist it the other way. Pretty neat tool. I have a feeling this is gonna get oil everywhere. Surprisingly, it didn't leak oil all over the place. When I'm installing my new oil filters, we have a new gasket here, of course, but I always like to take a little bit of the oil, lube up the gasket a tiny bit. Keeps anything from pinching or catching. New one going in. Now we're gonna put the drain plug back. Got a brand new washer with it, which is very nice. Man, it really is important to take the time, take care of your equipment. When you've got trucks, cars, Polaris, tractor, you can imagine how many oil changes I have to do. It's well worth it. Not having engine oil is like the #1 killer of vehicles. I can't believe how many people I've seen just completely explode a motor because it got low on oil. God forbid they even did an oil change one day. And that's that. Aside from the oil filter being in an awkward position, this is definitely the easiest oil change I've ever done. Well, that was an easy oil change. Not everybody's gonna have this type of equipment on their property, but if you do, make sure you do your oil changes, make sure you take care of it. Once or twice a week, I head over to our local food bank to collect all of the food scraps that Walmart and Kroger and all of the big box stores have donated to them, but went bad and they can't use it anymore. So pretty simple. If you need to feed pigs or animals and you want to save some money, give your food banks a call. They usually have a lot of stuff to get rid of because a lot of people donate to them and they just can't use it all. So let's go pick up some free food.
Feed chicken?
What's that?
That you feed a lot, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. For pigs.
Pig, chicken,
Yep.
something.
Yeah, they'll eat it all. Thank you. That's the last one, all right. I don't know if I can fit more. I got room. I guess we'll see you on Monday, huh? Okay, thank you. Oh my goodness. That's the most food that they've given me so far. Oh man, we're gonna have so much food for these pigs. I'm so excited. It's pretty amazing having a food bank give you all this stuff that they were donated, but you know, like all the bread's got little moldy spots on it, and you know, all the fruits and veggies aren't good anymore. They're getting soft, so these pigs will eat it up. Look at all this food. I mean, it's basically stacked up to the top of the canopy there. If you've got pigs or chickens love this, and you want to be able to feed your pigs or chickens for free, this is a really great way to do that. Call your local food bank. I mean, this was all just donated to me. All I had to do was show up and load it. There's so much in here. Pigs are gonna go absolutely crazy. This is absolutely incredible. Huge amount of food for us, for these pigs. I can't even tell you how long that's gonna last. Last time I went and grabbed some from them, it was about 7 boxes of these, and that lasted us like 5 days for the pigs. This may last us a week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks. We'll see. I'm gonna be back there on Monday again, getting even more food. Might be overfeeding our pigs at some point. We'll have to see. Most of this is like a bunch of bread that's got some moldy spots that nobody can eat, or you got big, huge things of lettuce that have gone bad, which is like, this doesn't even look like it's gone bad, but of course we're gonna feed it to our pigs. Pretty incredible. There are some things that I don't really bother with because it's so hard. There's like these little packaged apples in here, and for me to go through and unpackage all of them, it really takes a long time. So unless I'm desperate, I'm probably just gonna toss this sort of stuff. I've got 3 separate buckets for each group of pigs out in the field. All I do is I take the lids off and I start filling. These pigs tend to go after the bread first. I don't blame them, it's good stuff. I will say the only downside to getting food from a food bank is just all of the trash you have to deal with. I will say all of that trash and the food would have ended up in the landfill, so at least we're cutting out one of those. Lettuce for these guys, and we just dump it in there. Some broccoli slaw, spinach. Man, these pigs are eating all their veggies today. We even have some bananas. The only nuisance about the bananas is I always make sure I take all these stickers off. We don't want them eating those. They're gonna love that. Let's go get them fed. There you go. Hey there, Mike. Hey, buddy. We feed our pigs twice a day. Once first thing in the morning at about 7:30, and then once again, usually about 3 or 4 o'clock. It kind of depends on the light and how dark it's getting, but definitely before it gets dark because it's much harder to see everybody, and pigs don't see very well at night, and so if they're coming out of their little nest there, their little house, and it's dark, sometimes they'll touch the fence quite a bit or even go through it because they really can't see that it's there. We do this about twice a day, and I think that getting food from this food bank is probably going to minimize our feed consumption, feeling like it's going to be at least 80%, and it could be even higher than that depending on how much they give us. If every Monday and Friday they give us this much, we'll probably never have to feed them our corn and soybean feed ever again. We'll see. I mean, those food banks get food year-round. It's a big eye-opener to how much food gets wasted in our country, and you know, at least I'm getting it from the food bank, and I'm the last stop. You know, I do feel good about that. I feel good that I'm the last stop. At least they tried to donate it, but there obviously wasn't enough people to give it away to, or I wouldn't be getting it. If you have pigs or chickens, you want a really good way to feed your livestock and save some money, hit up your local food banks. We also have a bakery that we go to and get some of their food scraps from. Not nearly as much as the food bank, so if you do have a local food bank, that's what I would recommend. Live in a big city, it's probably going to be difficult to get their food because I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of pig farmers around them that want that food. For our food bank, there was a line, and they gave me a call one day and said, hey, the last guy didn't want any, so do you want to be our new pig guy? And I said, absolutely. We have to move our cows because we rotationally graze here on our property, and usually that's every Saturday, but lately it's been a little bit more frequent because some of our pastures look a little bit better. You know, none of the grass is growing anymore, and then some of our pastures, like on that far side, just do not look very good. So there's not much growing in some of the pastures, so we have to move them quicker so that way they can get enough forage in them. Yesterday I came out and they were mooing at me. They usually tell me when it's time to move. Pretty much ate everything in this field over here that Buddy's in. And right now we just had a nice downpour, so they're soaking wet. just chewing on their cud. Moving these cows now is pretty easy because we've put in all the wire, all the fencing. Makes it very simple to come over to one of these gates like this one right here. We open that up, let them through, so that way they can go down one pasture and come back to their water when they need to. I love cows so much. I really like pigs, which you can probably tell from our usual topic of pigs on this channel, but I really love the cows. We don't get to spend a ton of time with the cows because they're out here. They don't really take very much work. All we have to do is make sure they have water, which for the majority of the year is just an automatic waterer. So very rarely do we have to come out here. We usually kind of have to make sure we come out and visit with them and love on them. Unlike the other animals like chickens and pigs who get fed every day, we just have land, and the land feeds the cows, which is very simple. I know that'll be changing a little bit, and if you've been watching the channel for quite a while, you probably know that our girl Rosie here lost her calf earlier this year, which was a big bummer for us because I was totally anticipating milking her for the next year. She didn't even end up coming into milk. It was a big bummer, but this year we're anticipating another one, well, for next year in March. I know once I'm milking her every day, there'll be a much better connection between me and her. We love Rosie, she loves us, and you can see these guys are just tired of me rambling on. They want me to move them. We've got this whole fencing system pretty well set up. Not necessarily perfect yet because we still need to build a milking parlor back behind the camera here. I'm hoping I'll get that done this winter. Pretty simple. I just got to open this gate, let them through, and then we'll close off the rest of the run so that way they can't go all the way back up. Come on. Come on. Moving these cows really is as simple as that. It's pretty nice. Now that everything's where it needs to be, all the fence posts are set up, all the wires set up, all that hard work I put in all summer long, setting all the paddocks up is paying off. Now that they're going back over the same paddocks they did earlier this year. This area that they're in, this big field right here, and then this little portion back here behind the garden is about 6 acres. It is more than enough for these 3 cows. Oak in the back there is actually going to the butcher January 3rd. He'll be there for 10 days, and then we'll end up in our freezer, of course, which we are very excited for. These 2, Rosie and Buddy, they're obviously staying. Rosie is pregnant, like I said, should be having a calf in March. Buddy is our purebred Angus bull for years to come. Hopefully he is breeding with Rosie, giving us some really good Jersey Angus beef stock for the years to come. So we're gonna let them graze probably until Christmas, maybe even early January, and then they'll be going all the way over to our winter pasture and our winter barn area. At least once a week, usually, we like to give them a nice big thing of alfalfa. As Rosie gets closer to her March birth date, we will be definitely feeding her a lot more of this, try and fatten her up, get her nice and well fed for that pregnancy. Let's go give them some alfalfa treats. Come here, Rosie. Oh, look at Buddy, he's running. There you go, Buddy. There you go. That's a good buddy. Pick these pokies out of you. I don't know if you have these where you live, but we have these nasty pokey things that just stick on every single piece of clothing and obviously all the livestock. We do not feed any grain to any of our cattle on our farm. I don't really think that they were supposed to, and there's really no reason to because they eat tons of grass. They are a ruminant animal and they do amazing with just grass. So these are alfalfa pellets, and you can see Rosie absolutely loves them. They go crazy. If we want to walk them across the property or, you know, have them follow us all around, this is exactly what we use. They just absolutely go crazy on it. I'm back in the kitchen and it is time to make some bread. Just about every 2 weeks I come and I make about 4 loaves so that way we can freeze the rest and pull them out when we need them. It's a little bit more convenient than making 2 loaves every single week. It seems to work for us, so let's get to it. I start off by melting some butter, adding sugar, adding in my milk, bringing it to a nice warm temperature, and I like to use my finger to test. Then I add in my yeast, whisk real good, and let it sit for 8 minutes. It's time to crack my eggs into a large bowl. Add my salt. Whisk, whisk, whisk. And then add in my yeast and milk mixture. I like to do part whole wheat, so I'm adding that in, mixing it well, and then adding in my unbleached all-purpose flour. At this point, it's hard to stir, so it's time to get the hands dirty. I flour up my counter, plop that dough ball out, and start kneading. This starts off pretty slow and gradually gets easier and more uniform. Since this is 4 loaves of bread, I like to cut my dough ball into 2 separate pieces and knead a little bit more. I put a little bit of oil in my bowls, get the dough nice and coated, and cover it with a towel. I've got to add some wood to the fire to make sure it's nice and hot, then I set my dough out to rise. While I wait, I'll give the dog some love and attention and maybe even do a little reading. Now that's what we want to see. We use Pyrex bread pans. I'm not really a fan of Teflon non-stick. To keep the bread from sticking, I butter them up really well. Lay out some parchment paper, split the dough ball into 2, flatten it out with a rolling pin, and roll into logs. And then it's back to the fire to rise once more. Oh yeah, I like to see my bread about 2 inches above the top of the pan. Set them into the preheated oven for 25 minutes. Well, there it is. That's our 4 loaves that should last us about 2 weeks. There's really only one thing left to do, and that's cut us a piece, put some butter on it, and taste it. This is my favorite part. I realize that for some people's homesteads, it's not very practical to get a dairy cow or, a beef cattle or anything like that. But if you ever get the opportunity, it really is a beautiful experience. Such a majestic animal in my eyes. I just love our cows. And like I said, we don't come out and spend very much time with them like we do the pigs or the chickens, because they don't need to be fed every single day out here on the grass. It is a lot of fun to find an excuse to come and love on Rosie and Buddy and Oak. Hey there, Rosie. You got all the stickers on you. You got all the stickers on you. Hey. There you go, Rosie. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Don't get too excited. Well, it's already time to move these cows again. They've ate this paddock down quite a bit. We're gonna move some fences, get them into some greener pastures. You ready to move? You ready to move, buddy? Huh? Don't ever get behind an excited cow. They might kick you. Guys, come on. Come on. There you go. If you know who Joel Salatin is, probably heard him talk about cow days. And this time of year, we don't get very many cow days. Cow days is the best unit of measurement for deciding how many days your pastures get for each cow per acre or per half an acre, whatever you decide. But there's a certain amount of cow days per field. Like this last field, we only got 5 days on that one. So this field we might have 7 days, and this next field we might have 10 days, who knows. Cow days is a better unit of measurement than carrying capacity, because your field is different than everybody else's field in the state, and each pasture is different. So this last pasture they were in, it was okay. This other pasture, we're getting better, And then this next pasture that they're gonna go in after this one is really good quality forage. So they'll probably be there a lot longer than they were in these other two. I think we've maybe got another 90 cow days on this field, and cow days are calculated by cow. So since we have 3 cows, that would be 30 days before it's time to take them over into our winter pasture, into our winter barns, start to deep bed them and feed them hay. And we'll do that probably till late March, maybe early April, and then we'll be back out in these fields for another season of grazing. Well, I'm gonna leave the cows to it. This is where I'm gonna sign off. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you're thinking of starting a homestead, I hope you do it. I hope you have a good plan and you execute and follow that dream. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. We'll be right back.